Hi, Troy.
Hi, Laurie.
Welcome to Talking to Troy.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, I think it's important to have Tacoma's #1 gay here.
Yes, I do have a mug that says it's true.
We know. We have all seen it many times. In today's episode, we're going to cover some important things.
Awesome, Laurie. I can't wait. Let's do this.
Nice moves, Troy.
Thank you. I practice every Wednesday at 12:30 on our Zoom dance break. You should join sometime.
Wednesdays, 12:30. I'm so there.
So, I am talking with, this is Troy Christensen. This is going to be Talking with Troy. And Troy is the executive director at Rainbow Center in Tacoma, Washington. We start off, can you tell us about the Supreme Court cases?
I can. There are 4 right now that are pending, and 3 of them, the oral arguments have already been heard by the Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
The first 3, where they already heard oral arguments last fall, one was a county employee, a gay man who was fired, and he believes it was because of his sexual orientation. The county government didn't deny it. They said that it was not something that they were prohibited from doing. There was another case where a trans woman was terminated as she began transitioning. After a lot of harassment, she was eventually terminated, and she also sued. And the third one was another gay man who was fired from his job and subsequently passed away, and his family and friends are suing on his behalf. In each of the cases, there aren't protections in place. So the argument is whether Title VII, which covers sex discrimination, should be applied. And the general argument is if they had not been attracted to someone of the same sex, or had they not transitioned genders, then they wouldn't have been fired. And so it is sex discrimination. And the Supreme Court will be ruling on whether that is the case. It's never reached the Supreme Court yet to try to apply Title VII to LGBTQ status. And so this is a very important ruling. It would extend across the country and make it illegal to discriminate in all of the ways it's illegal to discriminate now based upon gender or sex.
What would be the implications if it came back and it wasn't for for our community?
The implication would be that it's absolutely fine to discriminate based upon sexual orientation and gender identity. And so for states that don't currently have protections, there would be the ability for any employer or any landlord or any service provider to say, we simply do not want you, based upon who you are and who you love. And in states that do have that protection, we could be at risk of people organizing to roll back those rights that we have currently, those protections that we have. Is religious organizations that handle adoptions refusing to allow same-sex partners or same-sex spouses to adopt. The argument is if 2 parents qualify as adequate parents to adopt, they should be allowed to adopt regardless of whether they're in a same-sex relationship or not. And some states have protections against that, but most don't currently. And this would be a federal law that either provided those protections or left it up to the states. And similar to the other three cases, if they leave it up to the states, those without protection will be able to discriminate, and those who have protection will be at risk of losing those.
When same-sex marriage became legal and the drastic impact that that had on the suicide rates of young people who identified as LGBTQ, and I think about these Supreme Court cases and the impact that that will have either way on the younger generation of young folks who are coming up and figuring out who they are and feeling as part, though they're a part of this community. I think a lot about the impact that these cases are going to have on them.
That's a great point. It's difficult when you see your identities erased. Mm-hmm. And for people like you and me who are in or approaching middle age,
I'm just thinking about like the importance of how we can lift each other up during this time. Celebrate how strong we are as a community. I think historically our community has, we've been through a lot in the sense we're fighters, you know, and I think, so I think about the community is so important for us. I mean, really that's what Pride is about to me, right? Is the acknowledging that we don't have to be ashamed of who we are as individuals or as a community. Mm-hmm.
So people are already feeling isolated. And now with this quarantine, we're forced into physical isolation. And it makes it even more difficult, especially watching what the federal government is doing during this time, mm-hmm. and potentially watching what the Supreme Court is doing. So I do think as we come out of this quarantine, it's going to be more important than ever for us to stand together proud. As difficult as things might still be for me as a cisgendered white male who can pass as straight when I need to, mm-hmm. It's not nearly as difficult as if you're also an immigrant, if mm-hmm. you're a person of color, if you're trans, if you're a female. As difficult as things might still be for me as a cisgendered white male who can pass as straight when I need to, mm-hmm. It's not nearly as difficult as if you're also an immigrant, if mm-hmm. you're a person of color, if you're trans, if you're a female. Mm-hmm. Those intersections make things exponentially more difficult. Mm-hmm. And we don't currently have a world in the United States where it's okay to completely be yourself, and where we value all races in the same way, where we value gender in the same way. It's our responsibility as an LGBTQ center to make sure that we are representing all of those voices.
Right.
And so it's more important than ever as we come out of this quarantine to make sure that we have the diversity of voices needed that represent the diversity of people we have in the LGBTQ community.
Hey, Troy.
Yeah, Laurie.
What does a gay horse eat?
I.
Yep.
Laurie, you are the funniest queer in Tacoma.
Thanks, Troy. I appreciate that.